We all have an intuitive notion that the laws of nature ground necessities. For instance, if we talk about the laws of gravity, if I throw my pencil in the air, it will probably fall to the ground. And this occurs out of necessity, right? Laws of nature are different in this way compared with normal laws that are created by states. Because you can still commit a crime, thus breaking a law, but you cannot break the laws of nature. They sort of must be followed. But the systematic approach that we have discussed on this channel treats laws as mere regularities. But if everything just happens out of regularity, there's nothing that grounds the necessities of them, right? This problem can actually be traced to the problem of induction. If you don't know what an inductive argument is, no worries, here follows one. One white swan, another white swan, yet another white swan, therefore all swans are white. But there's obviously a big problem here, because we're making an inference from only observing 3 white swans to the conclusion that all swans are white, including past, present, and future swans. So the probability of us being correct in our inference that all swans are white is unfortunately small. There is a solution to this problem proposed by Mill, although he wasn't that fond of it. He proposed that we could add this premise to our argument, that the course of nature is uniform, thus making this argument legitimate. But the obvious problem here is that this premise that we added needs to itself be justified with an inductive argument. But we cannot use this premise to justify itself without falling victim to a vicious circle. So this simply won't do, unfortunately. But I guess someone could make the case that at one point we have a sufficient amount of observed white swans. But thing is that we want necessities, especially when we talk about laws of nature. So this simply won't do. There actually is a way to solve the problem of induction, proposed by the Australian philosopher David Armstrong. But in order to do so, we have to postulate universals. Armstrong thinks that induction is a rational type of inference, but it needs to be converted into another form. Whenever we utilize induction in the case of laws of nature, we commonly draw the inference from, let's say, that all observed f's are g's to the conclusion that all unobserved f's are g's as well. But in order to validate this argument, we need an extra thing that serves not only to explain why all observed f's are g's, but also entail that all unobserved f's will also be g's. Through this extra thing, an inductive argument can become an inference to the best explanation, thus rational. But this extra thing that I talked about is a further state of affairs that can only be explained through universals. I know it sounds a little bit complex, but hear me out, I think you'll understand. So, to begin with, what are universals? Well, I've talked a bit about universals on this channel, but here it is again in a nutshell. Universals are either properties or relations, and the important thing is that universals can be strictly identical with each other. They are the same in each particular instantiation. For instance, according to physics, it is the case that all electrons have a negative charge. They have the same property in the strict sense. All electrons possess the same universal, which is very important. If we go back to our inductive analysis, let's say that we have an inductive argument that all observed f's also are g's. We cannot simply extrapolate this to the conclusion that all f's are g's without becoming victims to the problem of induction. But if it is the case that f and g both are universals, then we can come to the conclusion out of necessity that all f's also will be g's, including the unobserved ones. Because, like I said before, the universals are strictly identical to each other. So between the universals of f and g, we have another universal, which is the relation between them. And this relation is this extra thing that I talked about before. Thus, we have converted our inductive argument to an inference to the best explanation, thus rational. The problem of induction is solved. Although, note that the inductive argument that I began with the swans won't work with this solution, because oddly enough, being a swan is not what is considered a natural property. I don't have time to go through the case of natural properties, but if you guys would like to know more about that, please leave a comment down below. So, here we have not only succeeded in solving the problem of induction, but we have also given an account of the laws of nature. So this is the main idea behind the universals approach to laws of nature. The laws is simply the relation between universals. But if you think that the postulation of universals is a bit odd, then I suggest you watching this video here where I discuss the systematic approach to laws of nature, which is an reductive account.